Chapter 3. Help has arrived. Gio did not hold back as he lit into Randy. He started with, "Hey Randy, I'm not very happy with you right now, so forgive me for my anger. What is wrong with you? What kind of person would let his pregnant sister move into that house? Are you sick?" Randy laughed as if the conversation was beneath him. Gio shouted, "Are you seriously going to laugh at me? Do you think this is funny?" Randy said, "I absolutely think it's funny. You're just like Sandy. You idiots believe in that stuff? Maybe you and my wife should go get your heads checked." Gio lost his mind. He shouted, "Where are you, Randy? Where are you right now? Are you at the shop? Because I'm going to drive down there and knock that stupid smile off your face." There was a silence, so Gio continued, "How dare you justify what you did to your sister? Besides, you aren't a tough guy. You moved out too. Wait right there because I'm coming down there to teach you a lesson." Randy's tone switched. "Go ahead and come down here. You need to pick up your last check. You are fired. You think you can call your boss and threaten him? You have just been fired for making threats to your boss. Now, how are you going to take care of my crazy sister?" Gio said, "Well, if that's the case, I will just meet you at your house tonight. That way, we can settle this like men. Then again, you're not a man, Randy. You're a coward." Randy hung up the phone. Bridgette sat in awe as she heard the exchange. Gio explained the content of the conversation, although she had gotten the gist while listening. Gio assumed she was going to be mad because he had gotten fired. The opposite was true. She admired him for sticking up for her. Now it was her turn to call Randy. She dialed his number, fully expecting that he would not answer. Surprisingly, he answered on the first ring. She started out, "What's wrong with you, Randy?" He said, "Nothing's wrong with me. What's wrong with you?" She was stunned at his animosity toward her. She shouted, "Are you seriously putting on this big show because you got called out for pushing this house on us?" He countered, "There's nothing wrong with that house. You are all crazy, just like my crazy wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife." This caused Sandy to back up. She questioned, "What do you mean, ex-wife?" Randy said, "She left me, I guess. I woke up this morning and she never came back." Bridgette understood why he was acting so disrespectfully. She said, "I'm so sorry, Randy. What happened?" He said, "She was up all night cursing me out about that stupid house. I tried to tell her that it was all in her imagination, but she wouldn't listen. We fought all night. She called that stupid neighbor Ashley, and they got all worked up about the stuff that is still happening in that house. She left, and she didn't come back." Bridgette asked, "What makes you think she left you? Maybe she's just cooling down." Randy responded, "That was the last thing she said to me. She said that she was going to leave me because she doesn't want to be married to a man who would do that to his own sister. I slammed the door in her face and she walked out to the garage. To be honest, she can go. I don't care." Bridgette sat stunned. She was unsure of what to say. Then she remembered the reason for the call. She continued, "I understand you're going through a tough time, but this is no reason to treat Gio like you did. You knew this house was haunted, and you still pushed it on us. Even if you thought that it was all in Sandy's head, you still should have let someone else rent this house. I can tell you for sure, Randy, there's a demon here." Her expectation of empathy fell short. He said, "I'm so sick of talking about that house. Let me make this simple. I don't need Sandy, you, or your boyfriend in my life. You're both fired. I don't want to hear from you ever again." Then he hung up the phone. Bridgette was unsure of whether to cry or rage. Gio sat next to her on the couch as she chose to cry. He was unsure how they would make ends meet, but that was not important in that moment. He was there for her. There were other jobs, and they had a little bit of savings. Gio made the decision to sell his motorcycle so they could live off the money until they got back on their feet. Working for Randy was no longer an option. Even if he were to call and apologize, he had burned a bridge with his emotional tirade. Gio even said, "I'm so glad Sandy left him. She will be better off." Billy was also very angry. He shouted, He's not my uncle. He's nobody to me. Maria hugged him as he started to cry. They all sat stunned as they could not believe Randy's reaction. Gio wondered if Ashley had met with Sandy the night before and got worked up in her mental illness. He felt a deep appreciation for Sandy's remorse for allowing them to move into the house. They would have to call her later and thank her for her concern. For now, they had one person to contact. Gio dialed the number listed on the lease. He wanted to speak with his new landlord. These were not the typical questions that a tenant would ask a landlord. These were going to be tough questions. He was angry, so he was trying to calm down in order to be professional. On the same token, he needed answers, and he was going to get them. As the phone rang, he began to mentally rehearse the conversation. On the fourth ring, Dave Davenport answered in a way too cheerful voice. "Hello?" Gio said, "Hello, Dave. This is Gio Dotavi. Do you have a minute?" He could sense the tension as it crept through the phone. Dave said, "Sure. What's up?" Gio said, "Listen, I'm just going to cut to the chase. There's a demon here. You know that. That's why you moved out in the middle of the night. My girlfriend's brother also knows that there is a demon here. I think that you would not let them out of the lease, so we pawned this place off on us." Dave sat silently and did not respond to what he heard. His lack of reaction was confirmation of Gio's assumptions. Gio continued, "I am assuming that there is a reason that you have not sold this home. If I can guess, the reason is financial. Either way, I doubt you're going to let me and Bridgette out of this lease. I called to ask you what happened in this house. I have a demonologist coming tonight. I need a history so we can end this thing once and for all. Would you be willing to give me a history?" Again, Dave sat silently. Gio was forced to prompt him. "Dave, are you still there?" He said, "Well, it sounds like you have it all figured out. Oh, and you are correct when you say I will not let you out of that lease. I will ruin your credit if you try to skip out on me." Gio laughed and said, "Mr. Davenport, I can assure you that I'm going to do everything in my power to continue our business relationship. On the same token, don't threaten me. This is a life or death issue. I will skip out on this lease rather than let this thing hurt my family." Dave said, "What makes you think I know anything about a demon in that house?" Gio again laughed and said, "Well, first, you haven't denied it. This is the type of thing that people deny outright. Secondly, your old neighbor told me about how you moved out in the middle of the night. Who does that? Third, what kind of person rents his house to people he has never met or even credit checked? As far as I can tell, you haven't even seen this house since the day you moved out. Who leaves and has the movers come back to pack up their stuff? That sounds like someone who is afraid of something." The landlord seemed to be wavering between hanging up and respecting the blunt approach of Gio. He said, "Okay, Mr. Dotavi, I'm going to speak off the record. Do with this information what you will." Gio said, "I appreciate that. Again, I just want this to be over once and for all. We plan on living here for a few years. Maybe if this thing disappears, you won't have to worry about who rents it next. You might even be able to sell it." Then Dave Davenport spoke. "Sit down and get comfortable. This is a long story. I hope that by the end of this, you will have what you need. Again, this is off the record. My wife and I used to live a normal life. One day, we were watching television and we saw a show about the occult. We had never been religious and it looked exciting, so we thought we would try it. We went down to a bookstore downtown and looked for some old books on the subject. The cashier asked us what we were looking for. She was also into the occult and steered us in the direction of some starter books on the subject. It was fun at first. We learned a lot about the subject and decided that this would be a way of life for us. Some people are Christians, some are Buddhist. We decided to be occultists. As we got farther into it, our contact at the bookstore decided to share some of her own collection with us. She had some ancient books that talked about how to do spells. We tried one that was supposed to help us become wealthy. The crazy thing is that the spell worked. We both got promotions at our jobs. We knew that this was the spirits that were helping us. We told our contact, and she told us that the next step was to get a spirit board so we could find some spirit guides. So we bought a Ouija board and followed some of her instructions. Almost immediately, we contacted a spirit. He said his name was Mole, and he was there to help us live a more fulfilled life. I remember that we used to make fun of religious people because their gods did not do what our spirit guide and our spells would do. We continued to excel at work. We made a lot of friends who were also into the occult. Our lives had never been better. I have to say that this was a very enjoyable lifestyle. Then one day, we had some friends over and we were having a session with the Ouija board in the upstairs bedroom, the one in the back of the house. Mole told my wife, Lacey, that we were going to have a baby. She was ecstatic. By this time, I did not doubt the board at all. Lacey went out the next day and bought a home pregnancy test. The test came back negative. I was heartbroken. The next session, I asked Mole why the test was negative. It told us that it was not time. Then the board told us that our sexuality was not satisfactory. Now, I know this sounds crazy, but this thing would spell out full sentences. It used the word satisfactory. This is hard for me to say, but it told all of us that we were to have an orgy. That's what we did. Before I knew it, this was a regular practice. We would have sessions with the board that led to orgies. Soon there were massive orgies in that house on a regular basis. Somewhere in the process, Lacey became pregnant. At that point, I became concerned that the baby was not mine. Mole told us not to worry. The baby was definitely mine. We were as happy as we could be. Our lives were complete. We had success at work, an active sex life, lots of friends, and now we were going to have a baby. We even talked about how great of a decision it was to become occultists. The orgies continued well into the second trimester of Lacey's pregnancy. One day, we had a long talk. She was no longer feeling comfortable with her body. We decided that we would take a break from that. It was a mutual decision. We would still host sessions in the orgies that followed. We would simply opt out of the participation. Our friends were not judgmental and supported our decision to take a break. The only one that was not happy with our time out was Mole. He began to make angry statements about our lack of participation. He told us that it was not good for the baby to stop the activity. I told him that we were still highly active. We were just not participating in the group sessions. That's when I knew something was wrong. Mole said, "I know what you do. I see everything. You better do what I tell you, or I will take the baby." We were stunned. We had never had any negative experience with the board. This was disturbing. We began to discuss stopping the activity and shutting the door that we had opened to the spirit world. That's when all hell broke loose. One night we went upstairs and took out the board. We followed the instructions on how to shut the door. We assumed that it had worked. That night we found out that it did not. When we went to bed, we were talking about how things had gotten out of hand. We decided to stop the activity altogether. We had enjoyed the success and the friendship. Now it had gone too far. We made a vow not to follow the occult any longer. We then turned out the lights and went to bed. About 3 a.m, we were woken up by a series of loud noises that were coming from upstairs. It sounded like someone was vandalizing our home. I grabbed my pistol and went upstairs to confront the intruder. When I got upstairs, I isolated the noise to the office. I flung the door open to confront the man who was destroying my house. What I saw will haunt me for life. I saw a dark figure who was breaking all the furniture. It looked up and saw me. It did not stop as it kept destroying the contents of the room. I screamed for the spirit to stop. It then moved about an inch from my face and said, "I own you and your wife. You will do what I tell you to do." Lacey came up the stairs just in time to see the being talking to me. She tried to bind the spirit using an incantation that we had learned. The being was far too powerful. It shoved me out of the way and went after Lacey. It caught her at the bottom of the stairs. This is extremely hard for me to talk about. The being sexually assaulted Lacey. I was powerless to help. Each time I tried to intervene, I was thrown back with a tremendous force. I didn't stop trying, but I was severely injured before it was all over. When the attack was over, we just held each other and cried on the hardwood floor. We eventually turned the lights on and sat on the couch. We contemplated who we should call. We had a friend that was very advanced in the occult. Even though it was late, we called anyway. She said that we had welcomed in an evil entity and that it would take powerful magic to remove the being. As we were discussing how to arrange the cleansing, we heard the noise start again in the office. We decided to grab some of our things and make our way out to a hotel. We packed enough clothes for a couple of days. We knew that our lives were in danger. We decided to stay away from the home until the cleansing was done, since it would take a couple of days. We were walking into the garage and we saw the being descend the staircase. It was obviously trying to get our attention. As it reached the bottom of the stairs, I heard the clicking on the hardwood. When I looked down, I could see that the being had hooves. I will never be able to get that clicking sound out of my head. We both darted into the garage and jumped in my car. As we pulled out of the garage, we saw the being standing in the doorway watching us drive off. The craziest thing happened next. I heard the being speak to me in my head. It said, "I will have your baby." We decided that we would never go back. That is when we moved to California to be close to Lacey's parents. We never even tried to go back. We paid a moving company to come in and pack everything up. We told them to leave only the books and the Ouija board. That's what they did. The owner of the moving company said that his crew was not very delicate with the packing because they felt a presence in the house. We did not hold that against them. When we moved here, we were severely stressed out. We had been through a nightmare. It wasn't long after that that Lacey lost the baby. That was the beginning of the end for Lacey. She slowly deteriorated from that point on. About 2 years ago, we had her committed to a mental institution. I go and see her about once a month. She has to be severely sedated most of the time. All she does is talk about that house. I know that the evil entity that we contacted still torments her. I don't know how to help her. A few times she's lost it on me. She blames me for what happened to her. I just let her vent because she gets very violent. You know, it is very odd that you called. I was on my way to see her a couple of days ago. I called ahead to see if she needed anything. The staff informed me that she had escaped. I was not too worried because she has escaped before. They usually find her in a few hours. She has been gone for about 3 days. I'm starting to get very anxious. I'm sure they will find her, but I don't believe that she will ever be the same. The doctors say that she had a psychotic break. They have tried many different things. I know you think I'm a jerk for renting that house to someone else. I just assumed that the entity would leave once we did. Now, I must rent it to pay for the bills at the mental institution. I hope that you have the information that you need to get that thing out of there. I want that thing gone. Maybe you Christians could send it back to where it came from. Who knows? I may get my wife back one day. Anyway, I'm going to have to run. The hospital is calling. Maybe they found her. If you need more help, just call. I look forward to hearing how it turns out. Good luck and God bless, or whatever you Christians say. Gio said goodbye and hung up the phone. He was shocked at what he had just heard. The story seemed to line up with what he knew about the house. He spent the next several minutes telling Bridgette, Maria, and Billy what he had heard. He had made some assumptions in that moment. 1, the demon had been there since the first seances conducted by the Davenports. Randy and Sandy had then started using the Ouija board, which welcomed the spirit into their lives. Gio wondered in his head, were Randy and Sandy doing the same things as the Davenports, including orgies? Was that why Ashley Connors was so haunted by the demon? He knew that Randy would never admit that to his sister. He decided that he would call Sandy and ask her. Bridgette could tell that he was thinking something that was not appropriate to say in front of Billy. She knew that because she was thinking the same thing. She whispered, "Don't worry, I will call her and ask her. It may be weird coming from you. Besides, I want to let her know that I'm here for her if she needs me. Just because my brother is acting like a fool doesn't mean that I still don't care about her." Gio seemed relieved as he passed off the difficult phone call to Bridgette. She dialed Sandy's number. The phone rang and rang. There was no answer. The voicemail picked up, and Bridgette left a message. "Hey, Sandy, it's Bridgette. I'm sorry to hear what happened with my brother. Please know that I'm here for you. Listen, I have a couple of questions for you. We have a demonologist coming over tonight to try to get this demon out of the house. I really need you to call me back. I love you, and I will wait to hear back from you. Bye." The family decided to get out of the house for a while. Carlo was on his way, so they diverted him to meet at the Aurora Mall. They decided to do some shopping and eat some lunch. They jumped into the car and headed that way. They needed a day of fun to clear their minds. Tonight would be eye-opening, to say the least. 30 minutes after 5 took forever to arrive. They arrived back at the house on Nuclear Way at about 5. They had eaten an early dinner, not knowing what the evening may bring. They all commented on how nice the house looked now that it was all put together. Bridgette pointed out that the house was perfect for them at this season of their lives, except for the demon that lived in the nursery. They all had a chuckle at the comment, even though it wasn't funny at all. Humor is sometimes the best medicine in moments like this. At 20 minutes past 5, the doorbell rang. They were all caught by surprise since they were wrapped up in their humorous conversation. At the door stood a mountain of a man. Jeremiah Stone was not a fraction of an inch shorter than 6 feet, 6 inches tall. He was not an ounce shy of 320 pounds. Gio immediately thought, where did this guy play football? Once Mr. Stone introduced himself, Gio heard the scholarly man that he had not heard during the phone call. This man spoke very elegantly, as if he had spent his entire life in academia. This was somehow reassuring. With Mr. Stone was a very attractive young woman who was close to Gio's age. Petra Stein was a student who had met Jeremiah Stone at a conference he was hosting on the subject of the paranormal. She had a profound interest in the subject due to some admitted encounters with paranormal entities in her past. She had a bubbly personality and came across as fearless. Bridgette said to herself, "She's far too excited to be here. She isn't going to be so cheerful when this demon shows itself." Petra met the group, and Gio saw Billy instantly become smitten with the young apprentice. Also accompanying Mr. Stone was Michael Butler. He was a 6-foot-tall African-American man who looked like he could have been in a gang. He was intimidating in appearance, and hearing his deep voice only added to the intimidation. He had the opposite personality of Petra. This man was all business. Gio thought, this guy isn't very friendly, but if somebody must fight this demon, it should be him. Either way, the family was glad that the team had arrived. Just as with Father Boyle, Mr. Stone asked for a complete rundown of the history of this dilemma. Bridgette gave exquisite details, trying not to leave anything out. Gio did speak about the conversation he had with Dave Davenport, about the seances and the other activities that used to occur prior to their midnight exodus. Mr. Stone was a particularly good listener who took meticulous notes as they talked. He appeared empathetic and took the time to make sure that Maria, Carlo, and Billy all had their chance to interject. When the history was outlined, Mr. Stone spoke, saying, "Well, my experience tells me that this is real. You do not seem to have a single reason to lie, and your story is very credible. What I was concerned about was the fact that this activity occurred the same day that you moved in. In most cases, it may take several weeks before any paranormal phenomenon is noticed. Also, in most cases, the activity usually starts in a subtler manner. In this instance, it started out with a manifestation. The history of this residence provides a sufficient reason for the immediate activity. Gio felt relieved that the demonologist believed them. He had not even considered the fact that the team may not believe them at all. He realized that the priest had also believed them instantly. He was grateful. He felt like this man may be the one to help them. The family seemed comfortable allowing Mr. Stone and his team to take over. Gio said, "Mr. Stone, you can do whatever is necessary to get this thing out of our house." With that, Mr. Stone gave some directions, and an exorbitant amount of equipment was removed from the van and set up. There were cameras and motion sensors. There were gadgets and recording devices. Gio and Carlo joked that they had seen this stuff on television many times. Now it was happening to them. Gio, being a mechanic, was interested in how the gadgets worked, so he shadowed Michael around. The gruff Michael Butler seemed to loosen up, as they both shared a love for all things mechanical. In the matter of about 30 minutes, everything was set up. Bridgette looked out the window to see that darkness had crept in on them. It was now 8 in the evening, and she had set out some snacks for them to nibble on while they worked. She took one last glance out the window and saw Ashley Connor standing out in the front yard. When she got Gio's attention, he came over to look. The neighbor was gone. He told her, "She's the least of our worries right now. We will deal with her when this thing is over." Mr. Stone said that it was now time to go dark. He instructed the family to have a seat in the family room, just like they had the first night. The team would be monitoring from a control center in the van. One person would be watching the screens in the van, while the other two were investigating in the house. Mr. Stone gave them a directive to pray and keep their eyes open. The family all sat and said silent prayers. They sat uncomfortably close to each other. Darkness had become extremely uncomfortable to all of them because of this house. Michael took the first shift in the van as Mr. Stone and Petra decided to investigate the house. Mr. Stone set out to do some work in the nursery while Petra went down to the basement. Carlo commented on how brave they were for going into those rooms in the dark. Gio had to admit that he would not be comfortable going in the basement or the nursery without the lights on. Unfortunately, it did not take long before the team had enough evidence to prove that there was a demon in the house. Petra was in the basement and had a small video camera and a recording device. There was also an infrared camera in the basement. After about 20 minutes, the family heard some noises coming from downstairs. It sounded like something had fallen to the ground. The family assumed that she had bumped into something in the dark. Before they could react, the door flew open and Michael came running in. As Michael opened the door to the basement, he was met by the flying body of Petra Stein. Some invisible force had flung Petra up the stairs right at the same time Michael had opened the door. The force knocked Michael backward as Petra's powerless body flew wildly into the family room. The door then slammed shut with a tremendous force. The family all screamed and scrambled over to them to check for injuries. The two were bruised, but otherwise okay. Gio turned the light on and asked Michael, "What the hell was that?" He responded, "I don't know, man. I was watching the cameras. Petra was trying to get someone to talk to her. She was standing by the shelves in the corner. I saw a book fly off the shelf, and then another, and then another. Petra turned her camera over to the shelves, and then she started to back up. Next thing I know, I saw her get lifted off the ground. I came running in to see if she was okay. You saw the rest." Petra was terrified and speechless. Bridgette was sitting on the floor next to her, holding her close. Petra finally said, "It was a black figure. It was trying to say something to me, but I could not understand it. Then suddenly I was lifted off the ground. I have never experienced anything like that. I was just suspended in the air for a while. I wonder if my recorder picked up what it said." Through the turmoil, she held onto her recorder and her camera. She hit rewind on the recorder when the group heard a faint gurgling noise coming from upstairs. The group looked up at the top of the stairs. The lights were not on in the living room, but the lights from the family room illuminated the top of the staircase. At the top of the stairs was the black figure holding Jeremiah Stone off the ground by his throat. The demonologist was struggling to breathe. The demon spoke in a loud, deep voice. "You bring this unbeliever to send me away? You are all foolish. You profess to be followers of God, but none of you follow him. You are all sinners. I love sinners. You are my favorite kind of humans. You have no power over me. I am ancient. I have been studying you for millennia. I will destroy you all." Gio said, "That's a lie, demon. I believe in God. I trust him as my savior." The demon said, "You say you believe in God, but you live here with your woman out of wedlock. You do not follow the statutes of your God, and she is no saint herself. You are both hypocrites. Don't challenge me, human. I will kill you right after I kill this non-believer. He thinks this is a game. Does this feel like a game to you, Jeremiah?" Mr. Stone was starting to lose consciousness, and it wouldn't be long before he was strangled to death. Suddenly, a feminine voice said, "I believe in Jesus, the Son of the living God. It is in his name that I command you to put him down. Be gone, demon." In the blink of an eye, the demon was gone. Jeremiah Stone hit the ground. Michael ran over to him and checked on his well-being. He was breathing, but he was not okay. Bridgette turned on all the lights in the house. She was not going to welcome any more attacks by sitting in the dark. They all sat in silence as Mr. Stone caught his breath. Petra had sent the demon away, for now. The family, along with Jeremiah's team, stood watch as the family gathered some clothes for a couple of days. They were going to stay at a hotel. There was no way that they could stay in this house until something was done. Carlo's place was simply not big enough to house the family. Gio made some calls and found a hotel right off Interstate 225. This was the best short-term solution. Mr. Stone's team had decided to leave some of their equipment in the house until a decision was made. They could always come back in the morning to get it. The entire group decided to head over to the hotel and then debrief in the lobby. Bridgette, Gio, and Maria took one room with 2 queen beds. Billy and Carlo took the other room. They set their bags in the rooms and joined the demonologist and his team in the lobby. Gio was the first to ask, "So, what do you think about this situation?" Mr. Stone said, "Well, this is an immensely powerful demon, as you have witnessed. I have been investigating hauntings for a significant period of time. Nothing like this has ever transpired. I'm dumbfounded. Usually, I can confront such entities and they leave quickly. This entity manifested in front of me, and I held out my sacred cross. This is normally enough to expel the entity. In this instance, the demon picked me up by the neck and strangled me." Bridgette asked, "What is the next step?" Mr. Stone said, "I'm going to have to do some research and ascertain if something like this has ever occurred and how that demon was expelled." Then Carlos said the words that would send Mr. Stone into a tirade. He asked, "Why don't we call Anthony Corelli? He's that guy who tried to help that family in Highlands Ranch." He barely got the words out of his mouth when Mr. Stone became irate. The demonologist shouted, "I refuse to work with the likes of him. He is nothing but a pompous minister who moonlights as an exorcist. That is why he failed. As far as I'm concerned, he is responsible for the death of that family. I attempted to confront him on his failure. He said some very unpleasant things. I have never met somebody so unprofessional in my life." Carlo then decided that this type of tone was not acceptable. He confronted Mr. Stone saying, "Hey, I don't know who you think you're talking to, but you're not better than us. You don't get to talk down to us because of some sort of professional jealousy. That's between you and him. My friends here need some help. If you can't help us, then you should pack up your crap and go. From what I can tell, you're the one that doesn't know what you're doing. Even I know that you just don't hold up a cross when you're facing a demon. You're lucky to be alive. Not only that, but you almost got your assistant killed in the process. Mr. Stone said, that is why I usually get paid up front, because I was doing a favor for Father Doyle. I simply forgot to collect payment. Don't worry, I'll pick up my gear in the morning, and you will never hear from me again. Good luck handling this on your own. I'm sure the demon has big plans for you all. Gio said, hey, hold up, pal. It sounds like you're wishing this stuff on us. What kind of a minister are you? Mr. Stone replied, that's the problem with you Christians. I'm not an ordained minister. You don't have to be to do this job. I do this because of the knowledge that I have acquired. To put it simply, I'm an expert in the field. I've been studying about demons since I was a young graduate student. I doubt that Mr. Corelli has half of my education and experience. Working with him will probably get you killed. Bridgette asked, you told us to pray. Why did you ask us to pray if you don't even believe in God yourself? He said, I do believe in a God of my own understanding. I asked you to pray because I have found that it helps the family if they believe that their God can intervene. Gio said, so you don't believe that it is actually God who intervenes? I'm the one who intervenes. If your God can participate in the expulsion of the demon, then that's simply a bonus. Carlo again chimed in, you're a fraud. You think that it's you that gets rid of demons? I can tell by observation that your theory does not hold water. I'm going to politely ask you to leave this lobby. I will meet you at the house tomorrow at 1 p.m. You can pick up all your stuff then, unless you have the guts to go back into that house and get it tonight. Thank you for your time, Mr. Stone. Your services are no longer needed here. Oh, and you can be sure that I'm calling Father Doyle and tell him exactly what happened here tonight. Jeremiah Stone rose to his feet and towered over Carlo. Carlo did not flinch. He felt responsible for their interaction with this so-called demonologist. By default, he felt that it was his duty to send him packing. Mr. Stone turned to Michael and Petra and said, let's retire for the evening. We will retrieve our belongings tomorrow afternoon. Michael stood and apologetically waved to the family. He followed Mr. Stone to the door. Petra, on the other hand, did not follow. Michael turned and said, are you coming? Petra replied, no, I'm not. This family needs us, and I refuse to abandon them. God wants me to stay here. I will pick up my car in the morning. Just leave my stuff in the house. I will get it later. I have what I need for now. Tonight, I will stand by and let this family get some sleep. They need someone to watch after them. It was obvious that Michael was torn. He wanted to stay, but this was a source of income for him. He was faced with the dilemma to remain loyal to Mr. Stone or to be loyal to his calling as a helper. He decided to follow Mr. Stone. Petra waved goodbye as she watched them walk out the door. Gio commented, I don't have words for what I just saw. Thank you so much. We're not worthy of your gesture. Why did you do that? Petra said, I did it because it's the right thing to do. I got into this field because I've been able to see spirits since I was a young child. No one believed me when I told them. I had a terrifying situation happen to me when I was a freshman in college. I went to church and a really good pastor prayed for me. The demon has not been back ever since. I became a Christian that day. My family is not Christian, and they are still disappointed in me for betraying my Jewish roots. I know that they just don't understand that it was Jesus who saved me. Bridgette, who seemed to be lost in herself, snapped out of her trance, walked over to her, and hugged her. Maria joined in on the hug. Bridgette said, well, thank you for your willingness to help. We are forever grateful. Petra responded, you don't have to thank me. Someone helped me once upon a time. It's now my turn to help someone else. I learned something tonight. Demonology is not about the evidence gathering. It's about the power of God to save us in our time of need. Jeremiah does not understand that. I don't want to work for someone like that. Bridgette and Gio took one queen bed. Maria took the other. Petra technically shared the bed with Maria, but she stayed up most of the night, checking on everyone. The entire family experienced horrific nightmares, and on 2 separate occasions, the demon was seen in the shadows of both rooms. Petra was there to pray and keep it at bay. When morning came, Petra got some sleep while Billy and Bridgette got on the internet and found the name of the church where Anthony Corelli worked. A call to Westview Community Church yielded the information that Anthony was off that day. The receptionist, however, knew that if someone was calling about the demonic, she was to give out his cell phone number. Bridgette hung up with the church and dialed the number of the man who could hopefully help them. When the pastor answered the phone, it sounded like a party was going on in the background. She said, "I'm sorry to bother you, Pastor. It seems like you're busy, but my family is in trouble."
Thank you for listening to the Struggle Series podcast. Please like, subscribe, and tell a friend. We will see you next time.